That's pretty flimsy. Much better. Okay, so we finally reached the phase where I can start to apply sound deadener to this door. All of the spots that were bare are now covered. We've given it sufficient time to dry since yesterday. Now we're going to start fitting it for the door pod that I actually started to work on already. There's going to be a very sensitive tolerance to thickness when it comes to where the pod makes contact with the door frame. And so I'm going to use an Ensolite, which is kind of like a PVC and nitrile rubber compound. It's a closed cell foam. It's got an acrylic adhesive. It's very, very strong. It's also kind of stretchy, and that works better than the jute fabric that you might have seen, that recycled, looks like a carpet fabric kind of thing. It works a lot better than that. It's also waterproof because it's closed cell foam. It doesn't absorb any water. So I'm going to use that as a gasket for the parts where the thickness tolerances are sensitive. And everywhere else I'm going to use the Second Skin butyl rubber, and that basically is going to change the resonance of the panel by weighting it down. Everything has a resonant frequency depending on its mass, and when you load the panel with this butyl rubber, it increases the mass and therefore changes its resonant frequency. So if you're looking at very high frequency vibrations, like a buzz, when you put this panel on, in order to make it rattle, you're going to need a much lower frequency. And that usually takes care of a lot of the rattles that people hear when their car hits bumps or when you have an audio system. Okay, so this is the actual pod that I made. It's got two 6.5 speakers that are going to go in it. Right back here is the key. All of these parts in here are contact areas, and so I just want to make sure that we mark these off on the door frame and make sure that we use the Ensolite in there to provide the gasket so that this can sit very flush and snug to the door frame. Okay, so this basic general area, all along here we're going to use the Ensolite, and the rest of it we're going to use the butyl rubber. Okay, so here's that closed cell foam I was talking about. You can't feel it obviously, I bet, but it's kind of spongy and flexible, and it's not going to absorb any moisture, which is good for us. So I'm just going to start measuring it out and cutting it. Alright, whenever applying something with a sticky back, I usually like to peel back just a little bit, get it hung, and it's much easier to work with from that point on. Okay, so as you can see, I cut out some areas here where the bolt holes are, here and here. There's also a hole in here. Just make sure you keep those areas open, because when you have to repair the window, replace a regulator, replace a motor, anything like that, you're going to need access to the inside of this door frame. Depending on your mechanic sometimes, or your body guy sometimes, if they just get frustrated and things are covered, they're just going to cut the hell out of it, and they're not really going to put it back the way it should. So the more that's out of their way, the better. Now that I got all these areas pretty much taken care of, I'm going to start on the second skin. Okay, so first we want to go and find the weakest areas. That's pretty hollow. That's got some reinforcement behind it. That's pretty flimsy. That's double wall at least. Anytime you see, I don't know if you can see it here, but anytime you see spot welds or pinch welds, that usually means that there's double wall, and those areas probably won't need it as much. You want to get the areas that really vibrate a lot. Also, all of these open areas will have to be covered, because this is supposed to be a weatherproof installation. So anything around this perimeter should be sealed, so that when the water drips down from the window, it goes straight down to the bottom and drains out the drain holes in the bottom of the door frame. If not, it's going to get onto the interior panel, and we don't want that. So I'm probably going to seal up all around here, and then these holes as well. And I'm not going to necessarily do that with the second skin. I'm actually going to use a standard plastic tarp, something like you would normally find in a door panel like this, but I just got mine at Home Depot. I also have the 08578 strip caulk from 3M. A lot of guys call this Dum Dum in the industry, and it'll help seal out all these areas. It never really hardens. You can paint it, but it always remains sticky, which is a really good thing, and no matter what water touches, it's not going to be affected by water. Okay, now remember, this stuff only works if it's making contact with the panel. It's not something like the foam that's going to filter out airborne noise. This is only going to work if it's loading the panel. So contact is very, very important. Spend some extra time. Some guys use heat guns. You can do that. It's warm out enough here, plus got a 700 watt halogen pointed at this thing, so it's kind of warming up the panel. It's warming me up as well. But as long as it's soft and you're getting it into all those crevices, it'll be fine. This adhesive is insanely sticky. Trying to remember the basic principles of always cutting away from yourself when using a utility blade. I don't always follow it, but best practice, safety first. Okay, this is the 6mm sheeting, plastic sheeting I was talking about. This is pretty much meant for outdoor, so if it's meant for outdoor, it's good for our door. And again, we're just going to cover the holes and any of the areas that water can get in. Alright, so it's fitting pretty much where I want it. Now we're going to use our Dum Dum. Stuff's very sticky. I don't usually like to use gloves because it sticks to the gloves and the gloves stick to everything else. So I'll just use some Gojo at the end of the night here. I'm going to start at one side, go to the other. Okay, that's pretty much it. So we're going to hang our plastic. That's pretty much it. Now we're going to make sure that everything around it is sealed up, and cut some access for the door rod. Okay, so anything beyond this point we don't really need, so we're just going to cut that off. Alright, now this is where most of the water splashes in. So we're going to bring the pod back and see where it ends as far as how it goes in, as far as how far it goes in. And then we're going to waterproof that from that over. Alright, so it's going to be about from here over. We're going to waterproof. Okay, so last stage, I think I'm going to put some Ensolite over top of this. You can hear that. When the door shuts, if there's any air going through that panel as the car is moving, whatever it is, I don't want I don't want to be able to hear that or that. So we're just going to put some Ensolite over top of that. It's real thin. That should cut down on the sound a little bit. It's also seen on some, I think VW cars, where they'll actually have a coating of Ensolite over the entire panel on the inside here. So we're going to borrow a little bit of inspiration from them and see how it sounds. And what we can also do is when we're ready to change something out on the inside, a regulator or whatever, we're going to adhere it just to the plastic, so you can pull the plastic back, the Ensolite will come with it, and it won't mess up or require any more work than if we just had the plastic on there. Much better. I think that's it for tonight, children. Hopefully you learned something. Rich from Technically Fun.